Hey guys, in the fast lane here. In this video, I'm going to be answering questions to my followers and subscribers about AC related questions. The first question is, do you how calibrate AC actuator manually? Probably said, do you need to calibrate? In that case, yes, some vehicles you have to calibrate. You have to calibrate them through a scan tool, and other ones you can calibrate it manually. Caleb Andres says, has anyone ever had it so this switch causes the AC to never shut off, even if everything is shut off? I am worried something is going to blow up as it starts icing all the lines. I have just been unplugging the clutch wire. The AC clutch stays on and it won't cycle on and off even when all the lines start to ice up. I would say either your temperature switch is jumpered, and that's underneath the glove box. So pull the glove box out and look where the blower box is. There should be a little temperature sensor wire. Some people jump those wires to keep the AC going. The other thing I would say is you have a bad low pressure switch on the low pressure line out underneath the hood. If those go faulty, then the AC compressor can either never come on or it can continue to run. The last thing I would say is you have a dirty AC evaporator core, and that's inside the glove box. If the air isn't flowing through that, it'll freeze up. You could also have a dirty cabin air filter. Air has to flow through that coil at all times, or the temperature gets colder and colder, and without having any warmer air come through it, it'll just freeze right up. So that would be something I would look into. Umar Farouk says, my Helix truck low side pressure is 50 psi and the high side is 300 psi. So the compressor is good or bad? I would say your system is overcharged. If your system's overcharged, then it'll just kick on, kick off. As soon as the high side goes too far, it'll hit the high side pressure switch and it'll kill the compressor, kill everything basically. So I would say that you're overcharged or you have a bad AC compressor, but that's unlikely. What can happen is when the AC compressors go bad, the high can mix with the low side because it pretty much goes past the piston rings or those little seals and it goes into the low side. That's unlikely. I would just say that you're overcharged with refrigerant. Joseph PXO. Is that difluoroethane compatible with PAG 46 oil from the R134A? Yes, it's compatible. You can mix R152A and R134A with PAG 46 oil. It's pretty much backwards compatible. R152A is difluoroethane. That's the chemical compound. Are you saying R152A, Ceto Man says, are you saying R152A is colder than H-12A EnviroSafe? My research leads me to the exact opposite conclusion. In my personal experience, R152A is much, much colder than EnviroSafe, hands down. So that's a yes. J.A. Kahan says, great video, helped a lot. Currently a 99 Ford Explorer, low compressor off, jumped the high and low sensor, compressor kicked on, no cold air, though. Your thoughts on that? I would say you just have low refrigerant and just hook up the gauges and find out where you're at on the low side, hook them up on the high side and find out where you're on the high side. But more than likely low refrigerant. John Outlaw 8257 says, my problem is with the vent controller. Stays on defrost. Checked all vacuum lines. They are good. Still not blowing through dash vents. Only defrost. I would say on that vehicle, I believe this is one of my videos I was talking about the Ford Ranger. So the older Ford Rangers, they have what's called a vacuum diaphragm actuator, and it runs off a vacuum line. You say that you checked all the vacuum lines. You could have a faulty actuator. And the climate control module on the dash where you turn it, that can be going bad. That can actually be leaking vacuum internally. So that's where I would check on that. GUEZ Woe 67 says, I have a 97 Ranger and it's cycling between floor to defrost windshield to out the front grills, or front air vents is what he's referring to. Do you think replacing the AC heater control panel would fix it? I would say you have a vacuum leak or one of the diaphragms in the actuators is going bad, the actual actuator itself. I would start there. If those don't fix it, then it's very possible that you have a climate control module going bad. Red Diamond 00 says 2004 Ranger Edge. I can't change the temperature. The other two knobs work, but the one with the red and blue seems to not function. I can't use my heater because of this. Any ideas? I would say you have a bad climate control switch. So the module, the main module on the dash where you dial it in, I'd say that's what's wrong with it. Babe Hope says, I have a 97 Ranger and I can't find a fix for the AC, just works on high. All the fan speeds work fine. I just can't change between max and normal works like a heater. Any help will be nice. I would say you have a... Well, let me read this other question right underneath it. It says, with Robert or Roberta or Roberth 3094 says, I have an '08 and I have the same problem. If you find the solution, let me know. Thanks. I think what both of you folks are having is you probably have a vacuum leak on the AC controller module, the controller switch, and there could be a vacuum leak somewhere in the system too. So I would start with there. The dash, the vacuum control module, that's probably going bad on you guys. Now the '08 I don't believe has a vacuum line. I could be wrong, but the '08 probably doesn't. If it does, it could also be the diaphragm actuator. But the same thing would go with, I would say for the '08, it would be the climate control module switch. XDGK Riva 22X says, what did you do to keep the power steering? Okay, this was on one of my Honda videos where I was doing an AC conversion. What I did was I used the original 96 to 2000 Honda Civic power steering line and I cut the end of it off. And then I welded on. I went to a junkyard and pulled a LS Integra power steering line, and I cut the head off, and I welded it to my original line that came off of my original chassis. And then I just put it onto the GSR, the B18C1 engine. I used that power steering module. Or not module, but power steering pump. The power steering pump, I put the head on that pump from the LS. Just, you're going to have to cut one off and weld it. Drizzy 4556 says, I have a B8 or a B16A swap on my 97 Civic with no AC, but I want to add it. Any suggestions? Yeah, I would go to the junkyard or salvage yard and get a Integra LS AC bracket, bolt it up, and then you'll want to weld on some nuts to, I forget which side it is, but one of the sides that when you put the 96 to 2000 Honda Civic single cam AC compressor, I used the original compressor that came with that car. When you mount it up, it's going to be missing 2 bolt thread holes. So you got to create it. You got to get behind it and weld on 2 nuts. You don't want to run with only 2 bolts because it will snap it under load. So make sure you do that. Max Ellis 74 says, what refrigerant does the old Honda / Acura use? Well, if it's a 94 and earlier, it's going to run R12. And if it's a 94 plus, 95 and up, it's going to run R134A. Mr. Clayman says, 96 Civic Coupe. Mine was the fuse, and then days shortly after, my compressor went out. But what do you expect from an original 1996? Yeah, bad AC compressor can pull extra amps and it can blow your fuses. So that's a pretty common thing. All right, we have Ray Elling Mandy 6359. Do they have an AC relay? If so, where's it located? Also, my AC works in the morning, and then after a couple of hours, when I turn it on, it blows hot air. Also, when I turn the switch, AC, I don't hear it engage in the compressor. What can cause it? The AC Pro liquid levels are good. I would say AC fan relay or a bad pressure switch. You can look at the relay underneath. The relay, the fan relay, is going to be underneath the hood in the fuse box. Basically, I think on the 96 2000 is going to be on the passenger side upper left-hand corner. Or no, not 96 to 2000. Yeah, that's where it's at. Same thing, 92 is probably the same area. Let's see, do they have an AC relay? If so, where they're located? Also, my AC works sometimes in the morning. Yeah, it can be overheating. The fan relay can be overheating. If the fan relay doesn't engage, then the compressor's not going to engage either. And a bad pressure switch, if the pressure goes too low, it'll kick off, and if the pressure goes too high, it'll kick off as well. So I would check that. AT Lion BK says, my fan is loose. When it falls down, an inch, I have to pull it up into the metal piece where the second rubber grommet go, or where the two rubber grommets go. Any reason why it comes loose? I would just say you're missing the bottom fan grommets that hold it up. There's two grommets that go in the bottom and one's in the top. If you don't have the ones in the bottom, it's just going to drop down. So that's what I would check. 2103 Tony says, how can you test a fan like that to make sure it's working properly? You can get a testing diagnostic tool where you can inject voltage into it. It's like a test meter. And also you can hook 12 volts up to it if you need on the positive and negative. Just hook it up, and if the fan turns on, then you know it's working good. I'll post links to these products, everything I'm discussing in this video. I put it in the description and in the comments, so if you guys need to purchase it, you can go right ahead and purchase it. Street Bob Heaven 4068. Where did you purchase your O-rings? I usually just get them on Amazon. I'll put links to the full O-ring kits that I like to use in the description. In the comments, you can get them there. The Chab M. Hi, what are the size of the O-rings for the dryer? Thanks. I believe he's talking about the Honda Civic O-rings on the dryer. Those are 8mm O-rings, but like I mentioned with the person right before you, I'll just put the link to the complete kit. It has all the sizes in it, and you don't have to guess. In the description. I'll put it in the description. Taylor Z2. Is there any way to make the existing AC unit in my newer Corolla cooler? No, it does not need refrigerant or Freon. It's just a weak AC unit, and I'd like my car to cool off faster and stay cooler in hot temps. The stock setup has the compressor cycle on and off. I'd like the compressor to stay on longer during these cycles. No, it's not short cycling. That's just how it works. I've had many cars, some of which the vents would get frost on them during a road trip. So I know good AC, but this AC is not good. All right, so if you're having those problems and it truly is your refrigerant levels are proper, I would say, yeah, you can go to a refrigerant called difluoroethane, which is R152A, and it's extremely cold. Yeah, I like it better even than R12. I've had R12 in a Ford Ranger before, and it's really good. Devo1987. Hey, this is Devo1987. Thanks for bringing me up in the video. 2006 Mazda 3S 2.3 liter automatic 4-cylinder sedan, 350,000 miles. I replaced every part except for in-car dash, evaporator, and AC pressure switch. My fan is just a radiator fan for both condenser. My AC has gotten better, more consistent, but at idle or stop and go, it gets warm pressure are good, no leaks. Car does great at faster speeds. So then he goes down the list of parts he's replaced. Radiator fan, water pump, thermostat, AC condenser, dryer, expansion valve, all AC lines, compressor, piston style, so you got a piston style instead of a scroll style AC compressor, AC stretch belt, ambient temperature sensor, cabin filter, radiator fan, plus fan controller. No OBD2 cell lights. What could it be? Yeah, that's a lot. I would say, I mean, it could be the pressures in the system weren't charged properly. You didn't pull a good vacuum, or whoever did it, and there's air in the system. Don't leave that out. That could be a possibility. You could also have a faulty pressure switch, AC pressure switch. Even they're just sometimes they're real finicky. The fan on that, the fan will stop if the AC pressure switch, if it's shutting down. Whenever it's getting warmer, you need to walk out and look and see if your fan's moving, if your AC compressor is engaging. On the outside, it'll be spinning, not just the pulley. And you could have a weak condenser fan. Could be spinning, but it's not getting the proper voltage. You could check the power going to the fan, make sure that it's not shorting out. The next thing I would say, you could have a bad TXV valve. That's an expansion valve. And what happens with those, the valve could be bad, or you didn't tape the, the sensing bulb. You didn't tape the sensing bulb to the line. Those need to be taped with what's called like Armaflex tape. And the sensing bulb goes on the line, and when the line gets cold, it sends some pressure to the TXV valve, and when it gets too cold, it'll push the valve shut or open, so it'll stop putting pressure in. And then when it gets not cold enough, it opens back up, and allows the Freon to flow. So when it's too cold, the Freon stops flowing, and when it opens up, when it's hot, it opens up and lets the Freon go through, and then it can go through the expansion valve into the evaporator core and cool off the cabin air. So that it could be not taped on the low pressure line properly. All right, guys, that's it for today. If you have any questions, go ahead and make a comment below about AC related, and maybe I'll include them in the next video.